everyone, welcome back. Today we are here in a 33-foot growing dome with Steve, the owner of this greenhouse, and he is going to talk to us about some of the automations that he's done to make it possible for him to use this space because he's not here all year long. So we're going to touch on some of the Wi-Fi, electrical, and some of the unique components that he has in here. Without further ado, Steve, can you show us your electrical system?
Sure can, thank you. So we're lucky to have a big solar array here for the whole house. It's electric baseboard heat's crazy expensive, so we had that installed. So when we got the dome, I decided to take everything electric except for the ground air heat transfer system. So what we did is we had 50 amp service brought into the dome. I had an electrician install this, and then I ran all the other circuits from this point forward. So in my electrical, I've got 5 different 20 amp circuits. In the winter, I'll have a electric heater right here, and so it's on its own dedicated 20 amp circuit. Otherwise, it was blowing breakers. I found that out the hard way. And then I extended these out, and so I've got wet use receptacles throughout the dome, so I don't have to worry about water. And then I've kind of just organized these to make sense of what I'm powering. I have a little bit of prettying up to do eventually once I get settled, but what I really was looking at is what's the expansion I needed in the electrical, and then setting up for that future as well as what I've currently done. So this is the electrical system that we installed. I have water that we've run out to the greenhouse right here. Here's my water spigot. So I spoke to Growing Spaces about where's the best place to put this. And so I started, and we'll talk a little bit about the drip system, but I started with just a really basic drip system on a timer that you got at the local hardware store. And then I've expanded that out to a more customizable drip system. But this is my water system. This is really important for running all year. That's a temperature sensor, and that's Wi-Fi enabled. So we'll talk a little bit about the temp system as well. And so for my temperatures, I use the Inkbird, and this has been great for me because I currently have 6 different sensors set up, and by coming in, I can look at all my different zones. So this is the south zone. This also lets me check ground air heat transfer system. Right now it's blowing 60-degree temperature, and right against the wall on the south of the bed, it's 87 degrees. This is my water sensor right here, and this is real key for not freezing my drip system. So I have a water sensor over by my spigot coming in, and I have a second water sensor that's out on the other side where my zone controller is. And what I also like about these sensors is I can come in and see historical data. So I can look at just a day, or I can download. Right now it's running 60 degree in the underground. You can see that the wall temperature got down to just under 50 degrees last night. So depending on how detailed you want to get, you can actually export data with the Rainbird. And these sensors are pretty reasonably priced. They have battery life on them, so they tell me, I've got a couple that are getting low on batteries, but the batteries last probably 5-6 months. Being here, especially in the winter, when you can come in from cold outdoors to a nice warm dome, relatively warm dome, and see the plants and things going, I really enjoy that. So this is a place I get to come and spend some time just doing my thing and enjoying nature indoors. So moving from the northwest side of the dome where I've got my water and my breaker box, I'll move over to this side. This is moving from the northwest over the northeast, and this is where I have most of my electronics for the Wi-Fi control system and the drip system and things like that. So this dome has Wi-Fi in it, and one of the things I wanted to be able to do is to monitor the temperatures in the dome. I have a Wi-Fi controlled drip system, and I wanted to be able to change how much water is going into each of the zones. And to do that, I needed to have Wi-Fi into the dome. When we wired up the dome, I decided instead of trying to run a cable, what I did is I ran it over the power lines. It's called a power line extender, and it comes in, and it's this device right here. So this actually takes the Wi-Fi signal. I have a sender that's in the house. It runs over my electrical line out here and gives me Wi-Fi at this point right here. I also have a mesh network in my house, and what that lets me do is monitor with this the health of my internet out here. So if I lose connectivity for any reason, I can reset both of those devices over the internet. And once I've got Wi-Fi out here, then it gives me the opportunity to run my drip system, check my temperatures that are going on, all of those type of things. So looking at my drip system, this is my Wi-Fi controller. This is an 8-zone controller. I have 4 zones currently hooked up to my drip system. This right here is the junction box for this. There's 4 valves inside that. And I know in the drip system, the various zones, I know how many emitters I have and how much water that comes out. So I can control how much timing it is. So if I want 1.5 inches of water per week, which is what I'm currently running, I can direct that in that zone. Over on the south side, I grew tomatoes this year and they need more water. And so I was able to get a lot more water on the south side of the dome. The other thing I would point out here is for my fans, to get circulation inside the dome, I wanted to have fans, and I wanted to be able to control these. And so right here I have a switch that's Wi-Fi enabled as well. And so I can set the timing of that depending on the temperature in the dome and what I'm seeing. The other thing about working with growing spaces is the resources that are available to me has been great. I've gardened for a long time, but as I said, never inside a dome. And so there's a planting guide that gives you ideas of what to plant, what time of year, and what zone to put that in. There's a video library that's got all kinds of videos like this that if you're interested in how to grow fig trees or how to deal with pests, those resources are available. And you can always call up and ask people, or for me, I pop in and say, hi, I got a question. So one of the things I want to point out with the drip system is it's great when I'm not here, but it does not replace supplemental watering. Part of that reason is as you lay out your different hoses, I've gone with 4 drip lines, 6-inch emitters, but you're always going to get some spots in here that are dry. And so hand watering being here lets me take care of that. Well, I also got a group of friends, we call them the Domesters, who have been fantastic. They helped us have this dome over last winter when we were gone for a good portion of time. So they hand water, but another thing that I've been doing, and I'll show you here in a bit, is mulching with straw in here, weed-free straw, which is really important. And what that does is it takes and it helps spread out that moisture across the soil so you don't have the dry spots and the wet spots. It just gives you more even moisture in your bed. And if you pay attention to how many emitters you have here, then you can go out, you can look at the area of the dome and how many inches of water you want to have per week, which is really important to be able to change, reduce your watering in the winter, crank it up in the summer when it gets really hot. So we have a group of friends, we call them the Domesters, and some neighbors and all of our friends. There are 4 different couples in addition to my wife Karen and I. And so when we're not here, the Domesters come in and they spot water. They look for insect infestation or any other kind of problem going on with plants. And obviously they share the harvest as well. Although we'll get a better harvest next year as I'm learning more and more about how to work a dome. But they've been fantastic and it's really fun. We've had a couple of Domester dinners this year and tried to use a lot of garden produce to feed the group and just enjoy it. So yes, the Domesters have been awesome. I really thank them. So walking over to the south part of the dome here, this was really parched this summer because I didn't have mulch in here, and this is definitely the hottest part of the dome. So about July, I decided to try mulching, and I mulch with straw. And so this is where the tomatoes were, and laid down the straw, and you can see a real big difference in terms of the bed being wet and dry over here versus over here. I've got really good consistent moisture all through the bed. There's really no dry spots at all in here, and it's because of the straw. The plants loved that. It made a huge difference, and this is my second crop of tomatoes that we're ending up with and leaving these to the Domesters to get to harvest. The straw that I use for this is easy straw. This is, I really like this. You can get this at the hardware stores and at garden centers. It's virtually weed-free versus just getting a bale of straw, which can often have seeds in it. And the other really nice thing with this is it's got tack in it. So with all the fans that we have in a dome, when you try to put down straw and you turn your fans on, you end up with a straw storm. This has tack in it, so once you've laid it down, you wet it, and it doesn't blow away. It's really, really convenient. One tip I want to show you that DripWorks turned me on to is this manifold over here. One of the things I really want to try and do is crop rotation over the years. I don't know how well this soil will do and continue to grow the tomatoes every year. Although this is a great part of the dome, it's not necessarily great for the soil. And so I want to be able to rotate that. And one of the things that DripWorks helped me figure out was this manifold right here. And so when I put this in, this is all 6-inch spaced drip emitters. But if I want to come in and put any kind of other crops that need water right at the source, all I have to do is unplug and unscrew this manifold. I can pick up all these lines and I can install a different type of drip system over here with just one easy manifold. So it was a nice tip that they showed me, and it's made it very easy to do in a drip system. So this is where I keep all my home automation apps. I've got everything for this, and I've got the Wise, which I use for the fans. My water control system is Ratio, and so I'll open that up. I have an 8-zone controller in here, and I've only got 4 of the zones set up. I run this twice a day. I do a little bit of moisture in the afternoon, and then my heaviest water happens in the morning at 8 o'clock. With the zones, I can come in and control all the various zones that I've got, and I've got them labeled so I can tell this zone is for my tomatoes. This zone here is where I call my lemongrass bed. And so in here I can set up both a morning schedule and an afternoon schedule. And with this schedule I can say where to water, when to water, and how much time to water. This does the morning schedule for all 4 zones that we have. And then while I'm in here, if I want to, just to turn it on real quickly, I can do a quick run schedule and it starts to water. We had our dome constructed last August and got the beds in and started to plant in October, and then we left. And so I wanted to have a drip system that was quick and easy to put in place before I left. Otherwise, the plants would die without water. So what I used is this system here. This is from a company, the Garden Grid is what this is called, Garden in Minutes. And it's just based on square foot gardening. It's just got emitters in here. It runs off of just a garden hose, and I've got a timer over on that side. And what it let me do is put 4 of these in and then leave. And so this bed here is still running on the original grid system that I had planted. Before I leave this time, I'm going to replace that, and it'll be all on the wireless drip system. But it was a great way to start, and the plants loved it. Once we figured out how much water and how long to run the controller, the plants obviously did well. Things other than kale also did really well in here too. So the challenge and also the great thing about the zones is you have literally different growing zones. And so this is the west zone over here, and it gets a lot of really good afternoon or morning sun coming in, but then it gets a lot of afternoon sun. And so we're growing cucumbers, which have done fabulous here. This winter we had this whole bed filled with garlic. The south zone is really hot. I've got tomatoes, I've got peppers, I've got tropical plants, lemongrass and turmeric, all kinds of different plants. Here in the center, I'm going to be growing a fig tree, and hopefully this is going to be 7 or 8 feet tall and give me a lot of shade over here. So it's interesting to see how your different growing zones work and what plants like zones and what don't. One thing that was interesting to me is plants that I planted the same plant close to the perimeter and then close to the inside edge. very, very different performance, especially during the winter where it was too cold there. The plants that liked the warmth just did great here, and vice versa in the summer. The ones that were slow starting over towards the edge of the dome really took off when we got additional heat, if they needed more heat. So learning your zones and moving things around to find out what likes what zone is part of the learning process.
So tell me a little bit about an automation that maybe didn't work out the way you had hoped.
So it's always a learning process with it, and so my feeder didn't work, and the reason was it gives too much food. The feeder that I've got only will run, you can have it run multiple times a day, but you can't skip days with it. And what I found that I was getting too much food coming into it, and I had a terrible algae bloom last winter. That's part of why I have the plastic petals here for shade. And then I also had to get my food under control. So I shut that off, and now it's just manual feed. So I just come up and hit hand feed with all my recycled containers. And then the domesters, when they're in here, when I'm gone, will hand feed when they want to. We watch the temperature of the water and do that, but the fish don't really need as much as this would put out.
We've talked a lot about kind of high-tech solutions to automating the greenhouse, but I did notice that you have a few more low-tech options as well that are kind of making it work for you.
Yes.
You shared with me something interesting about these cucumbers that I'd love to share with our viewers.
So this is called Socrates, and it's a variety that works in a greenhouse. I think it's called paracanthic. It doesn't require a pollinator. So every female flower will make a fruit. And what I've done is I've trained them up on the trellises, and actually they've trained themselves pretty well. But they're growing like crazy, and they're really thin-skinned, they're really nice, and they're very prolific. So if you need to like cucumbers if you're growing them, or have a lot of friends like the domesters to come in and take some off my hands.
Yeah, so that's a great tip, because one of the things we hear often, especially with cucumbers and squash, is that they don't end up making fruit, and it's because they typically need a pollinator because they have a male and a female flower. So this is a great solution when you are picking your plants for your greenhouse. Maybe think about picking some greenhouse specific varieties. That way it takes a little bit of the stress and the work away from you.
I think that also the other thing that I see with things like cucumbers is training them up so that you're using all of this wonderful vertical space, because cucumbers will go all over. I have had to pull them up off of this bed and get them to where I could get to them, but I could still grow other things in here as well. So that vertical gardening makes a big difference.
Yes, and you've used this same kind of stringer method for your tomatoes on the south side, and I'll show you guys how this works. Basically, you can unhook the string and pull it down, so it makes it easier to harvest as well.
I mean, I'm an avid gardener. I've been gardening for 10, 15 years now, and I really wanted to be able to garden in Colorado, but this is a tough environment. The seasons are short, the critters, we've got herds of elk and deer that are all around here, and so having the grow dome has been fantastic. To a large degree, I can control the temperature and the water. I love that I'm not battling squirrels and birds on all of my plants that are indoors. I'm also learning about this variety of cucumber not needing a pollinator. That to me, with the science background, I love science, and so getting to learn about the greenhouse environment has been fantastic.
Here with the tomatoes, you could see that a lot of our fruit is concentrated more at the top of the plant. And so this method helps you, so you can just pinch this, pull the string down, and then it makes it easier to harvest your tomatoes.
Yep, and they'll continue to grow, and you're not so high that you can't get to your stuff. I mean, if you're considering buying a dome, I obviously would encourage it. The building of the dome and situation, the project to put into place, to me was really, really interesting. Going through the permit process was not quite as interesting, but I learned how to navigate HOAs. But putting that in place, figuring out where we're going to get water and electric, and then putting in all of those systems, for me, I really enjoyed that. I spent a lot of time in here running electrical and water, and so that was a really interesting thing with my background. And then the real work starts, because you've then got to learn how to grow in a dome. It's a very different environment than growing outside. You've got different zones, you've got mulching, you've just got so many different things that are interesting, can also be very frustrating. But when you get things growing like this and you can come in here and eat breakfast off of your plants, for me, that's been great. We were fortunate to get a 33, which is a pretty good sized dome. And when I first walked in here, it was a little intimidating to see the amount of space I had inside this dome. But I have no doubt we'll be able to fill it well. If you're unable to get a dome this size or don't want to take on that amount of work, the other dome sizes are also fantastic. I've spent a lot of time at Growing Spaces looking at the different kinds of domes, and even the smallest domes there can work really, really well if that fits your lifestyle and your environment. So I've been really, really pleased with it. The people at Growing Spaces have been fantastic. I've been in there copying where the electrical's laid out, or where the fans have been placed, or how good their pond plants are doing versus mine that needs some work. It's just been a really great experience. I've really enjoyed it, and enjoyed working with everybody at Growing Spaces.
Well, Steve, thank you so much for sharing some of your high-tech and practical solutions that have made this space work for you. And it seems like we're still in the process of getting things kind of where you want them and kind of working out all the kinks.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's a learning process as you go. We have a lot of space here in the middle that is yet to fill in. What I really tried to do with planning the automation was remember there's more to come, but took your advice as well. Start with the outside, figure out what works and what doesn't, and then go from there. So I'm very excited about it. We love having the dome, and love learning and just having a nice place to come in and enjoy and share with friends and family. And it's very nice being close to Growing Spaces, because I can go right over and see what works over there and try and copy it here. And the advice that you guys have given me has been fantastic. So I really do appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, on that note, thank you guys so much for watching. If you would like to see more videos like this, make sure that you like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. And we'll see you again soon.